And with that, we'll move into item SR 19-0516, Wildfire Preparedness Informational Presentation to the Board by Emergency Services. I believe Mr. Steve Monahan will be, and Captain Jeff Pettit will be handling duties on this one. And Steve, while you're getting set up, how often do you plan to provide these updates to the board and therefore to the public?
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Anderson. Steve Monahan, your Director of Emergency Services. And good morning, honorable board members. To your question, Chairman Anderson, I believe you requested that we would bring you monthly updates going forward after this initial update that we'll be doing for you this morning.
Just want to make sure. Thanks very much.
And I'm trying to.
Is that monthly? Is it
monthly going forward after this morning.
So you'll get to tell us what's changed and new every 4 weeks. How exciting for you.
No pressure.
Excuse me, I'm trying to get to the full screen mode. There we go. Okay, thank you. Good morning again, Chairman Anderson, Steve Monahan, your Director of Emergency Services. With me, Captain Jeff Pettit, your Office of Emergency Services Program Manager, and Jen Tamo, our Analyst in OES, and Terry McMahon with Consolidated Fire. And we have a couple other speakers that will be going too. We're very excited to give you an update. Our last update was to your board at your board workshop in January. And at that workshop, you updated your A-level objective on wildfire. You made it a little more robust, a little more thorough, and we had some great discussions about this being a #1 priority for the Board of Supervisors. And we took that in the Office of Emergency Services as our direction and directive to work on this. And we've been aggressively working on this item for the last 5 months, and we want to share some of that with you this afternoon. The way we'll flow this is we're going to go a little bit over on our Wildfire Preparedness Action Plan that we first showed you in January. Then we're going to talk about what we've been doing as far as public education and outreach over the last 5 months. Captain Pettit is going to talk about how we're preparing as a county organization to respond to crisis and emergency if it happens. Captain Walsh with the Sheriff's Department is going to talk about evacuations and how the sheriff runs those in our community. Captain McMahon with thank you. Nevada County Consolidated. We'll talk about our new partnership and how that's working on our Defensible Space Inspection Program. And then Captain Jim Mathias with CAL FIRE will talk a little bit about the 2019 fire season outlook and intro into how we're going to spend our afternoon with you on a tour today. So looking at our Wildfire Preparedness Action Plan, this was a plan we first started 2 years ago, looking at broader goals, and we shared that 2 years at your board workshop. Last year, we built this out a little more robustly into an action plan and really want to talk about how it relates to other community wildfire plans. So we have CWPPs, Community Wildfire Protection Plans, that are developed by the community, usually led in the past through community groups like the Fire Safe Council. Truckee has made one, North San Juan has made one, and they really identify those vegetation projects, those large safety reduction, fuel reduction projects that need to happen in our community. And those feed over to the CAL FIRE unit strategic plan that is developed locally with our CAL FIRE unit forester. And so there's a strong linkage between those two. And those really identify the projects that CAL FIRE wants to do on their own and what the community wants to do. Our plan is all about what can we do to facilitate that those projects happen. So the Ponderosa Way project that has been in the news that we received the funding from CAL FIRE on is a great example. That was originally proposed and put into the CWPP for Western Nevada County. It was moved into the CAL FIRE unit plan, and it was put in our plan, the County Wildfire Preparedness Action Plan, as an item under how do we get funding to make these projects happen. And that's what we did. We applied for CAL FIRE funding, CAL FIRE funded it, and now the project's moving forward. So that kind of demonstrates the linkage between these plans. The priorities and objectives in these plans can be grouped into 4 major categories: providing leadership, public emergency preparedness, that's a lot of the outreach we'll talk about here soon, evacuation planning and preparing, and then vegetation management. And the 14 objectives that we have in our plan go through all that. The updated plan that is in your board packet, and it's in your information packet as well. We updated it with progress to date under each one of these 14 objectives. So you see a long list of things that have been accomplished in the last 5 months. Too many things to go over in our short time that we have with you this morning. So please take your time when you have time to go through that. Also want to go over this packet with you. When we go into the field, there's a couple items in here. One of them is the communications and structure overview. We'll go over that in the field, take about 10 minutes, and talks about the board's role and how we communicate with you during an emergency. So please be sure to bring that with you on the tour. Looking at the funding, this is one of our main goals in the action plan. And you've seen this slide in various states. This is an update. So we were awarded through the Fire Safe Council the $465,000, and that work was performed on roadside vegetation, partnering with Public Works. We just heard late last week, that we may receive another $100,000 towards this that they have available. So Fire Safe Council is working with Public Works on that, and hopefully we'll have something by the end of the week to announce firming that up. Cal OES, the state, has moved our 2 FEMA grants to FEMA. This happened last April, so almost $10 million there. We're feeling optimistic about those 2 grants being funded. Cal OES doesn't move them forward unless they really approve them and vet them out, and that there's funding allocated to that at the FEMA level. So we're hoping to find out this summer if we get those grants. The other 5 CAL FIRE grants we did not receive, and we were asked to apply next round, so we'll be doing that this fall. And then the Ponderosa West Grass Valley Defense Zone project was funded in 2 components. It was one of the 35 top projects for CAL FIRE from the governor's office, and that was funded at a $1 million project level. And then the remaining of the grant, $2.5 million, we received a letter that will be funded as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Jen Tamo, and she's going to talk about community engagement and some of the public outreach we've done over the last 5 months.
Good morning, Chair Anderson and Board. My name is Jen Tamo. Wildfire prevention and preparedness have been a top priority for your board for the past several years, but after the Camp Fire, we saw that this has been an intensified priority for our community. Last December, we filled the board chambers, and we filled the lobby, and we filled most of the conference rooms here when we hosted the Wildfire Prevention and Preparedness Town Hall. And we really saw with that response that the community is engaged, they're interested, and they're seeking information from the county. So we have aggressively ramped up our outreach efforts this past 5 months. As you can see on the screen, we have hosted a lot of community events here at the Rood Center, but also partnered with several nonprofit and community organizations. We have also contracted with Nevada County Media to hire Sheila Cameron, who is a marketing and media consultant who's really helped us get a lot of lift for our campaign efforts. One of the first things we did when Sheila came on board was to create the Ready Nevada County campaign, which is a signpost and is designed to be a one-stop shop place for information for the community to go. And we are unrolling this in whatever way people consume information. So that's online, on air, and in print as well. So we sent out this Ready Nevada County handbook to all residents in the community, and we paralleled that with a readynevadacounty.org website. And our attempt here is to call people into the solution, not call them out for not doing enough. So we are trying to make it very easy for people to learn what they can do to create defensible space around their homes. Make it easy for people to register for Code Red by partnering with 211 Connecting Point and amplifying that message. We want to make sure that people have their go bags ready and have a communication plan and evacuation plan in place. Just last Friday, we were at the Miners Foundry Cultural Center. We are partnering with the arts and the entertainment industry. We understand that fire is an issue that impacts every aspect of our lives, and we're trying to meet people where they are. So we're in person at community events like this. Next slide, please. We have partnered with the Fire Safe Council to support them in their free residential green waste program. Over 1 million pounds of green waste were collected in 1 month alone, and that was on Saturdays and Sundays in May. We partnered with the Gold Country Kiwanis and Fire Safe Council for the Children's Health and Wildfire Safety event. And we've also been partnering with several different stakeholders and agencies in Truckee, and we produced the Wildfire Prevention and Preparedness Town Hall there as well. Next slide, please. We are getting creative. We are not only hosting film screenings and town halls and panels, we have partnered with Nevada County Media to create the Ready Nevada County trailer, and Sierra Theaters has been so generous. They are going to allow us into their trailer packet this summer so we can reach kids, hopefully, in theaters. And this is a Ready Nevada County trailer. If we can pull that up now, we'd love to have the world premiere
of the
here.
Sierra Nevada,
I may need to turn the volume up.
a new hero will emerge. One who is ready. One who makes sure their friends and family are set. And has the power to go at a moment's notice. This fire season, you're the hero.
So one thing
We are Ready Nevada County.
So this is almost the final cut. There are a couple tweaks to make to the final version, but we will be doing a premiere at Sierra Theaters and really appreciate their partnership on this project. We wanted to represent all aspects of our community in that film and make it accessible, and we're really excited about this project. Next slide. We also have strategic partnerships with retailers in the community. We have met with management, and we want to educate staff because we know customers are going to be coming into the retailers here, getting their go bag ready and doing defensible space and hardening their homes. So we've met with retailers like A to Z, B and C, Hills Flat, Briar Patch. We're also getting calls from insurance companies and realtors and hospitals who want to also have this information in their available for their customers and clients as well. This information is available at libraries and at all of our various county offices throughout the community. And we're working with our media partners. We are strengthening the connections that we have in the community. We want to make sure that the community knows that Ready Nevada County is the source for real-time, up-to-date information, both now, but also in the event of an emergency. We want to make sure that We tamped down the rumor mill, and we're only pushing out vetted, trusted information because we know that that can save lives. We are on KVMR weekly with a Ready Nevada County update on Tuesday evenings. We have regular interviews with KNCO promoting the events that we have going on in the community, and we also have traditional ad buys with the union and UBANet as well. And again, we're partnering with nonprofits like Nevada County Media and 211 Connecting Point to help push out good information and register the community for code red emergency alerts. This is just a couple examples of how we are approaching our media and communication. We want to have a cohesive branded look, and we're really excited. We've planted a lot of seeds this spring, and we're now seeing them sprout. Just confirmed today, we have an interview with KQED. They reached out to us about our Wilder Than Wild film screening and how we had a panel after that, and just how that's impacting the community. So we're excited that this information is getting into the community, and we will continue to sustain these communication efforts throughout the year.
Thank you, Jen. We're going to go over to Captain Pettit.
Good morning, Board, Chair Anderson, Board of Supervisors. Just to kind of tailor off a little bit or talk about what Jen Tamo was talking about, we also recently were contacted by the San Francisco Chronicle. They've heard what we're doing up here. They're wanting to write an article. We did an interview with them last week. And then while we were sitting here, Laguna Beach down in Southern California sent me a message wondering about the drill this weekend and how we did that, and they would like to model something for them in Laguna Beach like we're doing up here. So that message is getting out, so that's great news. So today I would like to talk to you about three things really. It's the first thing being the Emergency Operations Center, and then evacuation planning and our emergency alert system. So in April, going to the Emergency Operations Center, in April we recruited within the county looking for county employees that would like to step up and take a lead in one of the positions in the Emergency Operations Center, whether it be planning and intelligence, operations, logistics, finance, or being the lead in our public information officer. We did select 9 county employees to take those positions, and who agreed to take on that extra duty that was equates to about 20 hours a month that they're willing to dedicate to working and getting the Emergency Operations Center up to speed, running, and running flawlessly in the event of emergency. Right after we picked we selected the 9 people, the entire team went to Placer County for an Emergency Operations Center training. That training consisted of breaking people into the individual areas that they'd be working. So we had people assigned to, just like I said, planning and intelligence. Somebody assigned to logistics. Somebody assigned to operations. Myself assigned to the director, and then somebody assigned to the PIO. And during those 32 hours, they would go through and learn specifically what their jobs were and what did they need to make sure was happening so that we had a smooth operating Emergency Operations Center, as well as making sure that the communication between the different units was happening and how we were ensuring that, the emergency operation is a support, or the Emergency Operations Center, we play a supportive role. We're not the boots on the ground fighting the fire or dealing with the flood or anything like that, but we support all those efforts. So what do those people need while they're out there? Do they need barricades, or do we need to get Public Works involved? So we're coordinating all those efforts. That training ended with a major catastrophe drill. It started off, it pretty much encompassed everything you can imagine going wrong. It started with an earthquake in Southern California in a coastal town that also had an island that was connected to the mainland by one bridge. Of course, that bridge fell, and then that island caught on fire, and the mayor's house was on that island. And so we had to, everybody was put through the ringer of how do you deal with not only dealing with the catastrophe, dealing with the actual emergency, but how do you deal with the political side as well when you have your mayor coming into your Emergency Operations Center and wanting to divert stuff to his house. So that was fun. This is the group here at that training. We had just finished, so we were happy that we survived. The last weekend we got together again, and I do want to give a special thank you to Chair Anderson, because he did come in to see what was happening, and we absolutely put him to work moving boxes and clearing things out of what used to be our green room. So last week we came together, and the purpose of that was, one, a lot of the people that are now in the EOC have never seen what an incident command system looks like for when there's a large wildfire, you know, actually going out to fire incident command or law incident command. And I knew that was happening here. So I thought it'd be a good time for them to come together to see how fire and law worked out in the field, because a lot of times, or every time, when you open up the Emergency Operations Center, we come here to the Root Center where our center is at, where they don't really see what's going out on the street. So it was good to have them come here and listen to their briefings and see how their structure is set up a lot like ours. Once they went through the briefing, we went upstairs and we started really getting into each section. The sections sat down, they looked at all their forms. What forms do we have? Who are our contact people? What do we need to update as far as contacts? Making sure we have all those contacts for shelters, for vendors and everything in place now before we need them. So sitting down and going through all those. And again, we took that time to clean up the EOC, change our green room back to a conference room where we could get out of the emergency operations, go into a separate room, and actually have a conference call or a video call in a room that's separate outside of the emergency operations center. On another note, it also allows the people that are working in that, if they're working 12 hours a day and they're working at that high capacity, if they get a 10-minute break, to get out, get away from the noise, and kind of get a little decompression time. Moving on to evacuation planning, one of the things we recently did was we're hiring a consultant to update our mass evacuation annex of the county's emergency operations plan. At the same time, that consultant will be also developing a mass sheltering annex to be added to the emergency operation plan for the county. We'll be working with her as well as other county offices to put those together and go through those and make sure that the structure that we have in place is sound and that we have a good foundation moving on. After we get those two annexes set up, the last time our emergency operation plan was updated was, I believe, June of 2011. Is that correct? So we will be going through and updating the basic emergency operations plan as well as soon as we get those two annexes completed. I've also put together a workshop consisting of, I'll probably leave somebody out, but it's Truckee Police, Grass Valley Police Department, Nevada City, Nevada County Sheriff's Office, CHP, CAL FIRE, Nevada County Consolidated, other county agencies, and we set up an evacuation work group, which is pictured here. And really what this part is we're sitting down with maps, we're using a kind of a plastic overlay, if you will, and we're mapping out areas that during a large evacuation, identifying where are what we call choke points, and how do we set up traffic control points to mitigate those choke points. So coming up with plans of, where are our trouble intersections? We have a lot of our community that dumps into the Brunswick Basin and into Nevada City. How do we control that traffic? What partnering agencies do we need to contact early to get them into those positions so that we can keep that traffic moving or flowing as efficiently through those areas as possible? One of the things that came out in the Lobo fire and the after action report was the fact that we needed to address those traffic control points. So that's what we're doing now. We're going with the fire agencies, looking at what are the most urgent areas that we need to concentrate on, which communities are we starting with, and then by urgency going through and setting those up and eventually going through the entire county. The idea behind that is once we're done, we will have some basically 8.5 by 11 maps that we can give to the officers and units on the street so that when they arrive at an incident command center, they know before the emergency operations center is set up that they know where those problem areas are, they've been identified, and how many units they need to send to those traffic control points so we can keep that traffic flowing. Now, a lot of those units are going to be coming from out of town. So the idea is that they don't have to, a lot of times when units come in, they report to the incident commander. This information can be relayed to them while they're en route, so they can save time and get to these traffic control points and start that traffic flow. So that's the idea. This is more of a for the tactical guys on the street.
Jeff, Caltrans involvement in this?
Caltrans has been involved in the first meeting. We also have George Stephenson with the CHP, who can also liaise with Caltrans. And on that, some of the stuff that we're looking in is George is reaching out to like Gold Run, and where can, if we get that call, they'll have a plan that they immediately go to certain intersections just right at the call. So they would also be aware. So emergency. Oh, I'm sorry.
Covered that already. So you want to go on to?
Yeah. So moving on to the code red, or to our emergency alerts. So Code Red is the county's main emergency alert system. It alerts via phone, and that could be a landline or a cell phone, text message, email. It will also, once we get it set up, be integrating with our Facebook and Twitter feeds. So when we send out a Code Red message, it'll populate Facebook and Twitter, so that information also will get out to social media. We've tested that system twice within the last 3 months, one at the Lake Wildwood drill, for the WUI drill, and then the last one this weekend here up just above the Rood Center for Cement Hill, Purdon, and Champion Mine Road Firewise communities. We send those out, and we're able to test that system to know that people are getting the messages. They're getting, I always send out one that there's a start of a drill, and then the second one is going to be, when we do these drills, is the actual evacuation order. And those went well. There were a couple people who stated they didn't get it, but it wasn't a failure of the system. It was a failure of me mapping, trying to get everybody in that Firewise community, because when you map out a Firewise community on a Google Earth, you've kind of got to compare one map to the other and hand draw these lines, and that's what we were trying to do. That system also gives us access to the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, which is the FEMA's what they call IPAWS. That is your wireless emergency alerts. So if we activate that, such as in a wildfire, it will not only send it out to Code Red participants, but any cell phone that is in connection in that area on a cell tower, they're going to get it as well, regardless of whether they're in Code Red. And so that's an invaluable system that we have we have available to us, and really it's just we select it, click a button, and go through and do that. We've built some, or I have been building out some templates for wildfire, so that some of those initial notifications can go out a little bit quicker with more information, so that we build that template out. And really what we want people to do when they're first activating that is telling us, I'll use wildfire because that's what we're talking about today, is where the area that you're evacuating, so the community you're evacuating, where that wildfire is, which way it's burning. They put in those 3 things, and all the rest of the verbiage is already put into the system, reminding people to remember about their pets and their family members, and to evacuate now. In the future, through that IPAWS system, we will also have access to the National Weather Alert System, the NOAA radio system, which will send out a buzzer on their NOAA radios. However, they're waiting for the National Weather Service to become IPAWS compliant, but they are working forward that. And lastly, I was asked to talk a little bit about alert sirens. I know that's a lot. The board has been receiving a lot of community questions about those. I will tell you that I am looking into them. I have been in contact with people throughout the state of California through, we have a California Emergency Services Association board where I posted some questions, getting information. We're collecting data on those. The Firewise Coalition is also setting up a subcommittee to look into that, and they've asked me to be part of that subcommittee, and I told them I absolutely would be, and looking at Whether these sirens, these air raid sirens, if you will, are feasible for Nevada County. Also, you know, we do have concerns. There are concerns that we have right now, and to see if we can answer those concerns or at least mitigate those concerns moving forward. At this point, we're still in the very early stages. Like I said, I'm getting a lot of feedback from other agencies in the state of what they're doing, as well as talking to community members. And, you know, the community members have really been great. You know, a lot of times when I voice some of my initial concerns, it's stuff that they hadn't thought about, but then we sit down and go, okay, well, if not that, then what are some of our other alternatives? And we've really, nothing's off the table when you talk about alerting people to emergency, to the point where we've even talked about air horns that you would buy like for your boat, and how communities can use those. I mean, so really we're looking at everything. Absolutely our goal is to make sure that everybody is notified in the event of a wildfire or any emergency for that matter, so that they at least can tune in or look for more information of what is going on in their community.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. And next up, we're going to have Captain Walsh from the Sheriff's Office.
Good morning, Chair Anderson and the Honorable Board. My name is Mike Walsh. I'm a captain with the Sheriff's Office. This morning, I've been asked to talk to you about the evacuation process and maybe some of the things that we deal with at the Sheriff's Office during these major events. So I think the first thing we need to cover is the authority that we have to conduct these evacuations. It's actually codified in the Penal Code. It's in section 409.5. And what that does is that allows law enforcement to close off areas and deny access whenever the public health or public safety is threatened. You know, I think that's important for everybody to realize, because we do it all the time, but nobody really knows. You know, well, where do they get that authority from? Because realistically, you're cutting people off from their private property, and you're doing that in a you know, large scale event. And it is actually a crime because it's in the penal code. It's a misdemeanor. So if somebody tries to re-enter that area, it's almost like a trespass, but there is a specific section, 409.5C, which allows us to place somebody under arrest or detain them. There is one exception, and that is the media. The Penal Code says that duly authorized representatives of the press are allowed access to those closed areas. The exclusion is a crime scene, and I know they're all very aware of that exclusion. So basically what happens is before we decide to give an evacuation order, we work with the fire department. We'll go to their IC, we talk to them, and we start discussing whether or not there's a need for an evacuation. That's usually based on the size and the scope of the fire, and then based on that information, the available resources that the fire department has, weather conditions, the topographic conditions, we'll coordinate with them how big of an area or if we even need to start evacuations. You know, I think right now, you know, with the weather conditions, we get these you know, the high wind advisories and things like that, and especially with campfire, I think everybody's going to be erring on the side of caution, and we're going to probably be seeing a lot more evacuations. So how do we get that message out? Or I'm sorry, let's back up here. The evacuation message, we try to keep it simple and we try to keep it consistent. So we have 3 messages. We have the evacuation advisory, which I'll talk about, and then the immediate evacuation order, and then the last resort is a shelter in place. So the evacuation warning, that alerts people that there's an affected area and that there's a potential threat to life and property. So this is good for the people that need additional time should we actually order an evacuation. This will prepare people for the next step, which is a potential immediate evacuation order. The immediate evacuation order is basically whenever we've determined with the fire department that there's an imminent threat to life, and that if they choose to stay, it could result in their loss of their life. Staying may also will impede the work of emergency personnel. That's something that we come across quite often. Due to the changing nature of the emergency, this immediate evacuation order may be the only warning that people in the affected areas receive. Typically, that's not the case, but if it's something that comes up very quickly, then we're just going to start evacuating people. We may not have time, to issue a warning. Shelter in place. As long as I've been here, I don't think we've ever used this, but it is a last resort. It basically advises the people to stay where they're at, stay secure in their location, because if they do leave, it could impede the help that's coming to them, or there's just nowhere for them to go. So how do we deliver the evacuation orders? Primarily, we start off with code red. The next thing we're going to start doing is social media, using Facebook, Ubinet, the Union, local radio, KNCO, KVMR. Usually when all those things are going out over the air, we already have people doing door-to-door evacuations. That's the most effective way. I think we've seen several instances where code red hasn't worked in big fires. And sometimes people just sleep through it. I had a friend that slept through the McCourtney Road fire. Everybody around him evacuated. He didn't answer his phone. I personally called him. Next slide. So there's some other things that we talk about, things that we have to think about when we're doing these evacuations. OES helps with the evacuation of animals, but that sometimes does slow residents down because they're thinking about their animals. Where do we put our animals? Can we take them with us? So on and so forth. People with disabilities, that's come up a couple of times at these community meetings. They may not have access to social media. They can't hear. They can't read. And that's where having a boot on the ground, coming to their door, banging on the door is essential. A lot of times they'll put something, or what we've been asking them to do at these community meetings is put something up on their door or their window or somewhere that says, I'm disabled, I need help. We're also advising them to make sure that they're keeping in constant contact with their relatives, because their relatives typically are the ones that know. It's not uncommon for the dispatch center to get phone calls from loved ones who live out of the area wondering, hey, is this particular address being evacuated? If it is, I have a relative there that's disabled, they're going to need some extra help, or they're elderly. So that's things we have to think of. Staffing levels versus the time of day. Obviously, if it's during 9 to 5 or something like that, we have lots of staff. If it's in the evenings, it might take us a little longer to get people out there. Additional resources. I know during the McCourtney fire, we had Placer County come up. They were able to send us, I think it was five additional guys immediately while we waited for the EOC to open up so we could start requesting resources through the EOC. Grass Valley Police Department was able to participate, as was Nevada City, and of course we have CHP. And I think Truckee actually sent a unit down, if I recall. Temporary refuge areas, that again is a last resort, and that's not really something I think we discuss. But we do want our deputies to know their areas. They have to know their areas just in case they have to find one of those locations. They may have to take themselves or a small group of people with them to those areas if they find that they're caught in a fire. I believe that's all.
That's it. Thank you, Captain. And we'll go over to Chief McMahon and talk about the Defensible Space Inspection Program.
Good morning, Supervisors. Terry McMahon, Fire Marshal for Consolidated Fire District. We're here this morning to talk about our partnership with the Defensible Space Program. Currently, we have 3 inspectors on. We had 4, 1 left to take another job. They've all been trained, and they're out in the field working today, actually. So it's been a great partnership. It's been a learning experience. And right now I'd like to introduce my Deputy Fire Marshal. He actually oversees the inspectors, works closely with Captain Pettit on any issues and concerns that we have. And we're still working a lot of bugs out, but we're moving right along. So.
Good morning. As you stated, my name is Patrick Mason. I'm Deputy Fire Marshal, Nevada County Consolidated Fire District. With our 3 inspectors, I currently meet with them once a week to kind of lay out the game plan. What are we doing for the week? Where are they going? And try and find those target areas. The target areas, I reached out to the Nevada County Fire Chiefs. So each fire chief within their jurisdiction can kind of get back with me on some target areas that they would like to see inspected. I've also worked with Officer Chris Mertens through CAL FIRE for the east side up in Truckee to identify some of those target areas, and if they need some help, we can send an inspector or 2 up there for a week or so and help them out. As for the Nevada County ordinance, currently, as of this morning, we've received 106 complaints. All those complaints are currently being ran through that ordinance. Those ordinances or those complaints take approximately an hour to 2 hours per complaint to get through. In the just over 2 weeks the inspectors have been on, we've made initial contacts at 26 of those complaints, and we're averaging about 4 a day that one inspector can get through. One of the 3 inspectors, that's his sole purpose right now, is just dealing with those complaints, because when we receive those complaints, we're trying to make that first contact within 30 days, and then we contact the RP and let them know that stuff's working. As for the other 2 inspectors, they're just doing 4291s out in the area. I'm working with CAL FIRE right now with their collector app, so I don't have an exact number yet as to how many inspections they have completed. But there are times where we're going to have to pull those inspectors to keep on top of these complaints as they keep coming in.
Great. Thank you very much, Patrick. Next up is Chief Matthias with CAL FIRE.
Good morning. So I'm going to be your forecaster to tell you what's going to happen this fire season. And unlike a newscaster, I hope not to be as wrong as they are sometimes. So we're going to talk a little bit about the future and what that holds for the fire service, and what we're going to have to deal with and what you folks are going to have to deal with. We're also going to talk about the tour that we're going to do this afternoon. So at noon, we're going to leave here. We'll go to our Nevada City station. We'll see what we have to offer there. That's just a teaser. We'll move along to the Empire Mine and see some of the good work that's happening out there on projects. And we'll also go see our Grass Valley Air Attack Base and our Emergency Command Center, which dispatches for all the fire services in Nevada County. Before you see all the different resources that Nevada Yuba Placer has to offer, you're going to get a really good briefing of that this afternoon. So I'm going to skip over all of that stuff and just suffice to say that that's some of the stuff that you're going to see this afternoon and what we have to offer in Nevada County. Okay, let's get into the forecasting and what may happen this fire season. The graphic that you're going to see on the left there kind of relates to the bottom bullet point, and that's the yellow and the red, and it shows the density of the standing dead trees throughout the Sierra Nevada mountain range. So yellow is bad and red is worse. It just shows a higher density. So a lot of things that are happening there. Obviously the bug killed a whole bunch of trees, but not only do we have dead trees there that are standing up that are ready to receive embers and turn into basically matchsticks, but also along with that, what we have is we have a loss in shading and a loss in protection from wind down underneath those trees. So not only do you have the problem there's a receptive fuel bed there, but you're also having a drying, and like we saw the last few days, and we're going to see today as we go around on our trip, it's going to be pretty warm this afternoon. Imagine that there's some grass or brush underneath those trees that used to be forested area with some shading, and now you don't have that shading anymore. You can tell that it's going to be very dry. In the middle there and on the right, you're going to see that what I'm trying to talk about there is the grasses. And the top bullet point talks about the grasses that we saw last year. The difference between last year and this year is what you're looking at right there. On March of 2018, the center picture, what you're seeing is a lot of the grass is still standing up and dead from 2017. In March of 2018, there was that grass that was dead there, and underneath it was grass that was growing. By May 1st, as you're going to see in a graphic later, the grass stopped growing on May 1st. I don't know if any of you have been out in your yards recently, but the grass has really not stopped growing until maybe this weekend. I know that in the last couple of weeks with some of those thunderstorms and cells that we saw passing through, with the hot weather in between, we had a whole lot of grass. So what you're seeing is a picture of the same exact area, March of 2018 in the center, with grass left over from 2017, and then 2019, you're not seeing any of that dead grass in the middle. And what happened there is we had a lot of snow load, we had a lot of heavy rains, and it knocked over that grass that was a vertical arrangement to a horizontal arrangement, which tells us that we have dry, dead grass underneath there. And then you'll also see that that grass hasn't really grown up yet. So we've got a lot of problems that we're dealing with the grass fuel model. And the problem with grass is that it catches on fire very easily and it spreads very rapidly. And as we've seen these big fire fronts where you see crown fires running through the tops of trees. Well, that's bad because of the tree kill, the tree mortality that we're experiencing. But also what we're experiencing with that is some of our newer fires are spread, as we've seen, by wind. So we have all these embers that are blowing around. An ember landing on a live tree has very little chance of spreading the fire. An ember landing on a dead tree or an ember landing in any of this grass that I'm talking about has the potential to rapidly start another fire, and it gets out in front of all of our fire lines. So bad situation. Okay, I think you've seen these graphics before. We're going to talk about how fires are getting worse and worse and worse, and we're supposed to say they're anomalies, right? You've heard me say this before. If it happens year after year after year, it's not an anomaly anymore. It's starting to happen a little bit more regularly, so we have to take some more responsibility and we have to pay attention to it. So 20 largest fires, the highlighted ones are showing that we've had 6 since 2013. And the bright yellow ones saying we've had 3 in the last year. 20 most destructive fires, again, 9 since 2015 and 2 in the last year. So most destructive is by number of structures burned. And real quickly, the worst slide that we have to show you is the 20 deadliest fires in California history. We've had 5 since 2017 and 2 in the last year. Now, the Camp Fire is the one that everybody's very worried about, right? We never want to see anything like that happen in Nevada County for many different reasons. It destroyed a lot of property, it destroyed a lot of structures, and it is the most devastating loss of life in California history. So we don't want to see that here. So we've been talking a lot about preparedness. Your OES just presented about how they're going to do evacuations. The Sheriff's Department talked about evacuations. And that's certainly a problem, right? We want to be as prepared as possible, but you know, some of the news that hasn't gotten out as much, and I'm certainly not the sheriff of Butte County, so I'm not going to have the exact statistics that sheriff had. But what I'm being told by our fire side is that everybody was told to evacuate. That passed away in the fires, the 85 fatalities. They confirmed those people got notification and either chose to stay behind or were unable to get out as they were working towards getting them out. So let's make sure that we vet that information through the sheriff of Butte County, but I don't think that the panic is as bad as we thought it was initially. There's no good news about 85 fatalities, and we're going to try to avoid that in Nevada County as much as we can. Here's my good news, bad news slide. And this is showing the fire history of fires in Nevada County. So as we can tell over here in this shaded area, right, that you're looking at here, that's the 49er fire. These little spots here are our fires, Lobo Fire, McCourtney Fire. So we're talking Grass Valley, Nevada City area here. Everywhere that you see a shaded area, like to the south of us and to the north of us, there's a lot of fire history happening of large fires. What we're not seeing in the center of Nevada County and kind of over here in the eastern part of Nevada County, as you get to close to Lake Tahoe, you see a little bit more fire activity. But you look in this area of Nevada County that's pretty wide open. And we'd like to think it's because we have spectacular firefighters in Nevada County and also our air attack base. So I think it's a combination of all that. But the biggest combination is some good luck so far. So is it good news or is it bad news? Like I tell everybody, it's good news that we haven't had a ton of damaging fires in Nevada County. But the bad news is we haven't had a ton of damaging fires in Nevada County. And that tells us that our fuel is ready to spread and catch and have a large devastating fire. So what that equates to for us in the fire service and your sheriff's department is we have to be as prepared as possible. We have to be on point with our game, and we have to be ready to get people out and to extinguish fires as rapidly as we can. So let's talk a little bit more about the weather and maybe what we're going to see this year. So the good news is that predictive services are saying for this year, as you can tell, there's been a lot of rain, right? So what they think is that we probably won't get a lot of large development of fires in this area, in Northern California. So we've had a lot of rain, which means that our larger fuels, bigger trees that are still alive, some of our brush, they've soaked up that moisture. It gives them the opportunity to try to defend themselves. So what you're seeing here is a graph. And once again, it's just an estimate, so we can't tell what the future holds, but all these different lines are telling us the probabilities for El Nino. And El Nino, if you're not super educated on that, which you probably are, let me just state it, is that it's basically warm water over the Pacific, right? And that warm water produces a water vapor that goes up in the air, and as the jet stream catches it or trade wind catches it, it spreads it along. That's good and bad news. So the good news is, if that's associated with moisture and monsoonal moisture, it rains down humidity and rain down on top of the vegetation and keeps the fires down. Well, that's the good part of it. The bad part of it is, as this is California and it's going to be very hot, it makes it very difficult for El Nino to carry enough water and humidity to actually make it down to the ground. So good and bad news. The good news is sometimes we have a chance of getting some rain. As we get into the summer months, we're probably not going to get any of that rain reaching the ground. What we get is we get lightning, and hopefully that's not dry lightning. Hopefully it's like what we had a couple of weeks ago where it's associated with rain. But once again, California, up in the Sierras, we know we're going to get it. What it also produces is some of those, what they're calling some cutoff lows and sliders that are coming down. So inside sliders are a low pressure system that swirls around down off of that jet stream, and it produces some of those north winds that we really hate. So good and bad news with El Nino tells us that we have some chances for humidity, but I think as you've seen in the last few days and what we're going to see going into the future is maybe some of those really bad effects from those inside sliders, which produce those north winds and aren't associated with any rain. So bad news there. Okay, Predictive Services is talking about the month of June, the month of July, and the month of August. And if you can't read all that, which you don't need to be an expert, red is bad, white is normal, and green is better than normal. So in June, it looks like most of Northern California, the problems are going to be over towards the coast, the Bay Area, and the central or to the northern Sacramento Valley, right? Up towards Redding and the flatlands. The foothills are pretty much in a normal zone. As we get into July, where we're headed to in a pretty rapid rate, we still have the same effect there. We have this one slight little normal sliver that goes down there, and then a below normal potential for fire activity kind of over to the mountain range of Sierra Nevada. As we get into August, that spreads out as we would expect to reduce that below normal fire spread area and starts to push up normal to maybe above normal possible significant fire potential up into the foothills of in our Nevada County area. Some other predictive services charts. So July and August, once again, red is bad, green is good, and white is pretty much normal. So what it's showing there is that most of our big fire potential, what our problems are going to be, significant wildland fire potential outlook for the western United States, is that a lot of our problems are going to be in the northwest, way up in Oregon and Washington. But for us, more importantly, it's going to be along the coast of California and Southern California. And that spreads out, as you can see, into August with some more of that red in those dangerous areas where it could. What that does is that means that potentially it could rob some resources for us. We're going to do our best to stay home and protect everything that we can. But just like they came running to help us out when we had our fires, we have to help them out as well. Okay, here's that graphic I talked to you about with the grasses. It's not fully modified yet because I haven't put out the new graphic yet. And basically the point that I'm trying to make here is you're going to see all the grass production in 2019. On April 1st, it was 1,939 pounds per acre, which is way less than what we saw last year. On May 1st, it was 41.85 pounds per acre. And here's the point that we're showing you here. On May 1st, all the way to peak grass last year, this orange chart here, it's showing that's the most pounds per acre that we've ever had in recorded history. It stopped growing on May 1st. Ours did not stop growing on May 1st, and we haven't reached peak yet, so I don't have that number. My estimates are, and my guess is that it's probably going to be over 5,514 pounds per acre. So once again, that spreads fire rapidly, and it creates some really fast created BTUs, makes fires hot, makes them spread pretty rapidly. So that's the update on predictions of what we could possibly have in Nevada County. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Captain Matthias. And with that, your team here would be happy to answer any questions your board has. I will say it has been a very busy 6 months, and everybody in this room, including all of the chiefs and fire personnel. I especially want to thank your OES team, Jeff, Jen, and Sheila. These folks have been working their full-time jobs. Typical week usually has 1 or 2 evening events going on and 1 or 2 weekend events going on. So they've been really working. But we'd be happy to take your questions you may have now.
Steve, thank you very much. Thank you very much to the assembled first responders and to county staff for this presentation, for being here, for doing the important work that you're doing. It was an important and edifying and a useful presentation. So any questions, comments from my colleagues? I'll start with Dan first.
Yeah, I'm just thoroughly impressed by the coordination between OES and the fire services and law enforcement. The outreach, Jen, that you were talking about, it's consistent. You're having one every month, so people don't lose interest or they become melancholy about the threat. So I'm really impressed with that. And Terry, Chief Turner, and CAL FIRE, I'm amazed that you have been able to put this all together and present it to us so graphically. But yeah, I look at Nevada County and Jim, it might happen, but you guys are doing as much as you possibly can to prevent it, and I appreciate that. So thank you very much for this presentation.
Hardy?
Thank you. This is, I'm really glad that you did this presentation to us. Some of this I've heard once or twice before, but to hear it all together and to keep being reminded of what we're doing and what we need to do and how we need to stay aware is super helpful. And I have, what was I going to say? I have one or 2 other little questions that have come up as I've been out there talking to people and listening to you all. The issue of who to call, like when somebody's heard something or seen something online, or if we end up having some kind of a siren or notification system, who we call, that's a question I get a lot. I've been saying 211 because it's easy to remember. It's a central location. Are we prepared to staff 211 in a case of an emergency like that? Because I know right now they just have enough people to handle normal call traffic.
We're actually meeting with 211 tomorrow morning. We have a meeting with them to talk about just that topic, I'm sure, as well as others, to plan for what do we need to support them and what they can do to support us to get that information out. But absolutely, 211 is a great resource.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be learning that as we get better and better at getting information out, we're going to discover new problems. So everyone's going to know to call, and then no one's going to be able to get through if we don't have that system up and running. And then, as you know, I've talked to a number of you about the fact that the calls and I'm getting and the pressure I'm getting is for notification, so sirens or something in addition to cell phone, evacuations. So I'm really excited to hear that you're doing these maps and you've got this whole other annex planned, and I hope to hear more about that. That would be great. And then the last piece that sort of didn't get talked about yet is our, 5 to 6 to however 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 sort of long single egress roads that don't really have evacuation, secondary places to evacuate. And I know that I've talked with Trish about people in my community coming and asking people who are living on private roads or county roads, which are way out there, are we going to start looking at another way to we're limited by what we can do. I understand that sort of in the short term, but is there some way we can look at addressing those? I mean, I live on one of them, so I'm living that reality and looking for ways to get off my property that are just over land, basically. But I know that there's a lot of people concerned about that too.
We do get that question a lot. For the private roads, we talk about making sure the roads are wide enough that they can get out and fire equipment can get in or law enforcement can get in. Short of cutting new roads or, like you said, we're limited in a lot of what we can do. It's getting that message out for people who live on those roads that they need not wait for a code red to come. If they see fire, they smell smoke, they see something, they see the planes flying over their residence, and there's obviously something within proximity, that might be the time to head into town, go see a movie, go out to dinner, whatever. But the key is for people who are in that situation, it's even more paramount that they take that responsibility and leave even earlier and not wait. And we do get that question a lot. And I'm sure that it would be great if we could move bulldozers and start pushing dirt and move exit routes and all that kind of stuff. But obviously it's just not possible. So making sure that the communities work to keep those, especially on the private roads, working together to keep their roads accessible and keep that vegetation back from the road and high enough that the engines can get in. I think the recommendation is 15 feet up to ensure that those engines can get in, law enforcement personnel can get in to provide whatever assistance that's needed, and that the citizens can get out.
That's great. That's great. And that whole idea of leave at the first warning, that this weekend in that drill was the first time I'd heard that idea. I don't know if that's new in fire safety planning now. No, it's not. Okay, no. Jim's shaking his head. But that might be another whole initiative to get out targeting those specific roads, because I think that was I know we're better off than Paradise in terms of our exits, but that sort of was part of the issue there. I think just if more people get out sooner, then we don't end up with the traffic.
Absolutely, it is, and it has been part of our messaging that don't wait for a call. One of the things that I've been telling people, and I know others have, is if you're in a situation that you're not comfortable and you're not sure, that's the time to go.
Yeah. Okay.
At that point, load up, get out, avoid the traffic. It's like anything else. Encouraging people to really look at these weather events, these red flag days, as any other weather event and not just a nice hot day and time to go hit the lake or the river. Making sure they have their cars fueled up, their cars backed in if they're staying home, but really paying attention to what's out there. What do they hear? What do they see? What do they smell? What is being reported on the radio, through the news media, in social media? They really encouraging citizens to have that heightened alert when they on a red flag day, and pay attention to what's going on around them.
Right. Okay. So thank you. I think these are all issues that are going to continue to come up. And I just wanted to close my comments by saying, as frightened as I've been getting over the last few weeks, the more and more I learn and see, I feel much safer having watched everybody out there yesterday and hearing the plans we have. I'm really excited and happy that we're approaching it this much, and I commend everyone for their cooperation. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, I think evacuation is really the key, and that's really what Alta Sierra and the South County folks are really looking at. And it's kind of a frightening thing. I think this past weekend was a precursor to what we're probably going to be living with for a long time, and it kind of gave us, me, a wake-up call. Are you really ready, Ed? What is it that you really need to take with you? And we were looking we took some steps based upon the PG&E power outage. Was almost a precursor. And the question that I have on that is, we were getting a lot of text messages. I got text messages from the county. I got text messages from PG&E. My best source of information was Ubinet, who basically gave me the link to PG&E where they could focus on your house. I didn't receive any calls. I understand PG&E was given robocalls if your area was definitely going to be affected. But you didn't do a code red under this weekend, right?
No,
so we
not.
would have gotten an actual call. That's just prior to an evacuation then, is that correct?
For the code red?
Yes.
Yeah, if there was an evacuation, absolutely, you would have received a call. We weren't sending out information on, or we were sending out information, but we were not utilizing code red for that information. Things were changing. I was on the phone this weekend with PG&E. We had a few conference calls on Saturday going back and forth, and you know, some of the information, the mapping and stuff, PG&E was having a problem getting to the what we call OAs, the operational areas. And so on those conference calls, we did voice our concerns with, you know, we just need a map. What are you looking at? Where are you putting it out? They were trying to send these, they're called CAMZ files or shape files, but they weren't getting out. I know at one point, Pascal and I were in contact quite a bit that day, going back and forth, text messaging, through our partners with Cal OES, we will be bringing up the fact that news media was getting a lot of the information that the operational areas was not. At one point, Pascal was the one who informed me at before 8:30 by text message that PG&E had changed their mind. I had not received that information from PG&E at that point, and in fact, it didn't come till much later at night. So we've got some issues to work out with PG&E. We will be utilizing our resources at the state to ensure that they are pushing out messages earlier and to the local government, and that was not a frustration with just our county, because we had the entire North Bay, Butte County, and just about all of Northern California on that conference call. And there were times where we all were, you know, coming off mute in that conference call saying, "This isn't, you guys need to pick it up because we're not getting the information like we should."
Well, this has been great today, and thanks for the work thanks to all of you. You make us feel safer, but I know it's a spur-of-the-moment thing, and it's, our folks are very nervous, and frankly, I am too.
Thanks, Sue.
Well, on that note, I think they should be. I think the other thing I'd like to just say is, and Chief Wallen said, what the biggest thing we can do is meet you guys halfway. That it's back on the responsibility of our community members and all of us. The county is doing a fabulous job, but we're not going to be able to get all the roads trimmed. We're not going to be able to fix your driveways. This has to be a concerted effort of neighborhoods. And I'd just like to say kudos to the ones that came out for the drill. It was amazing, but there were that many more that didn't come.
Correct.
And so that's what was concerning to me, is there was a huge effort put out. Everybody should have been there. So your messaging is fabulous. I think I can't believe how many people have actually shown up at all of the events that you guys have put on here. We're doing the jobs. I think exciting to see how many Firewise communities we have. We've got some waiting in a queue. We don't even have the money to finish doing that right now, but that's exciting to me, even in North San Juan. So thank you very much for what you guys continue to do. And we need to remember to help keep our first responders safe as we go. I think what was interesting to me, I'm just going to throw that out there too, is when multi-agencies come in here from other places that aren't from here, let's get our signs out, people. We need to have and you can get them through Fire Safe Council. I couldn't believe how many homes didn't have their addresses signs out. So there's things that we can keep working on as communities, like I said, and meet our responders more than halfway. Let's be proactive for them. And again, thank you. What we're doing here at the county is incredible.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. And I'll echo Sue and say that I'm looking forward to the county working in a strategic and comprehensive manner which addresses all parts of the county fairly. I'm not clear yet how this is all going to work in Eastern Nevada County, because Eastern Nevada County has a different system. It has Nixle rather than Code Red, and I'm concerned about that. Are the people up at Donner Summit or in Klondike Flat or Russell Valley, will they be notified adequately, quickly, in case of, or if there is a wildfire approaching them? And just as critically, Nevada County is known as a county which has a higher percentage of elderly than other counties, and we had discussed the disabled during the presentation. But have we mapped, for example, the locations of senior living and assisted living facilities? Are those facilities able to? Can they be notified quickly and evacuated quickly also if there's a fire approaching? So I'm looking forward to having these issues at some point addressed. I don't know if you already have or haven't.
I can answer some of those questions for you right now.
Okay, Jeff, go ahead then. Thanks.
So we just did it, well, I guess it was maybe 3 months ago. All the care facilities in Nevada County came together from Truckee all the way down here, did a giant tabletop. There is a system in place, it's called the MOOC, where they open up their, it's the same as our Emergency Operations Center here, but tailored for medical needs and medical facilities and care facilities. They did, I think it was called the EPIC, that may not be the name. I'm trying to remember the name of the tabletop exercise. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Exodus, mass exodus, yes. Where they went through and did just what you're talking about there. How do you evacuate? And we did a giant tabletop, putting in resource requests, getting officers, doing the whole thing that we would do to the community. They did it specifically to those care facilities. So that is being looked at, and absolutely those concerns are being addressed.
Fantastic. This is an informational item, so there's no action being taken on it. Do we have any comment from the public on the presentations that we've heard today? And seeing none, I'll close public comment. And Steve, our next